The alien nobody wanted. The sun was setting on the alien colony of Velmora 9. Soft pink light touched the strange metal towers and glowing blue trees. It was mating season, an important event for the colony. Every year, all young adults gathered in the central square. That's where they chose their mates. In the middle of the circle stood a girl, alone. Her name was Zayla. She was 16 years old with smooth lavender skin, long silver hair, and glowing purple eyes. She looked different from the others. Too different. She had no family, no name clan, no protector. She was an orphan, and worse, an orphan of a mysterious bloodline. The alien crowd whispered about her. She's cursed. Her kind disappeared for a reason. Touch her and you'll carry death in your blood. The speaker called the names of the boys, one by one. Each boy walked forward, picked a girl, and placed a glowing crystal in her hand. It was the symbol of the mating bond. When it was Zayla's turn, the crowd grew silent. The speaker called her name. Zayla of no clan stepped forward. She walked to the center, her hands shaking, eyes low. "Will any male come forward?" the speaker asked. No one moved. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Still, no one came. Zayla stood in the center, her arms still, stretched out holding the empty crystal cup. The other girls watched her with pity. Some laughed, others looked away in shame. But the boys only stared, cold, afraid, or disgusted. The speaker repeated louder, "Will anyone come forward for Zayla?" Suddenly a voice cut through the silence. "I will." The crowd gasped. From the edge of the square, a human man stepped forward. He was tall, with messy black hair, a calm face and strong shoulders. His name was Jack Carter, and he was part of a human trade mission on the planet. He was not supposed to take part in the ritual. Humans didn't follow alien traditions. But Jack had been watching from a distance, and when he saw the lonely girl standing alone, something inside him said, "This isn't right." The aliens whispered loudly now. "What is he doing? A human can't mate with her." He doesn't understand what he's doing. But Jack walked straight to Zayla, looked her in the eyes, and said gently, "No one should be alone." Then, without hesitation, he placed the glowing crystal in her hand. The crystal lit up, brighter than anyone had seen before. Zayla stared at it, shocked. Her hands trembled. Her chest glowed faintly, as if a hidden mark had awakened. The crowd froze in silence. The elders rose to their feet. One of them shouted, "This cannot be. Human, do you know what you've done?" Jack frowned. "I gave her respect. That's all." But the elder's face turned pale. "You may have started something far older than you understand." Zayla pulled away, confused and afraid. "You shouldn't have done this," she whispered. "Now they'll come." "Who?" Jack asked, concerned. Zayla's voice trembled. "The ones who created me." Before Jack could ask more, Zayla dropped the crystal, turned, and ran into the night. The lights of the colony flickered as she disappeared into the dark. And behind her, the crystal on the ground kept glowing, brighter than ever. Jack makes a choice. The colony didn't sleep that night. Every screen, every whisper, every glowing alert spoke of one thing. A human placed the crystal in the orphan's hand. Guards watched the sky. Elders locked the sacred doors. Something ancient had been disturbed. But Jack didn't care about ancient fears. He cared about the girl who ran into the dark. He sat alone in his small quarters, staring at the glowing mark on his palm. When he touched Zayla's hand earlier, something strange had happened. His skin had lit up for a moment, just like hers. "What the hell was that?" he muttered. Suddenly, the door buzzed. A message blinked on his screen. "You are ordered to leave the colony at dawn. You have violated sacred law." Jack stood up, furious. For helping someone no one else would touch, he grabbed his gear, took a flashlight, and walked into the night. The forest outside the colony was quiet and cold. Strange blue leaves fell from the trees, and the wind howled like whispers from ghosts. Jack called out softly, "Zayla, I know you're scared, but I'm not like them." No answer, just the crunch of leaves. He kept walking deeper into the woods until he saw something shining ahead, a piece of her dress, stuck on a thorn branch. He followed the trail, cloth, footprints, drops of silver blood, until he reached an old gate made of stone and bone. It looked ancient, covered in moss and symbols. A sign read in alien script, "Do not enter, cursed ground." Jack looked at the gate, then back at the forest, and without a second thought, he walked in. Inside the cursed zone, the air felt heavier. The plants glowed softly and the ground pulsed with light like breathing. Jack saw her at last, Zayla, kneeling beside a black pool of water. She turned slowly when she heard him. Her eyes were glowing brighter than ever, and her skin looked slightly changed. "You came," she whispered. "I said I would." Jack replied gently. "You shouldn't have," she said, looking down. "They'll come now." Jack stepped closer. "Who are they, Zayla? What's happening to you?" Zayla looked into the dark water. "My people were made, not born. Long ago they tried to create the perfect bondmate, not for love, but for power." She touched her chest where the glowing symbol pulsed. "They hid me when I was small. I was their final weapon, a bonding with me. Awakens the ancient core." Jack blinked. "Wait, are you saying you're part of some experiment?" Zayla nodded slowly. "And you've triggered it. No one ever did before. They feared me, left me alone, but you touched me, and now the code is active." Jack stared at her in shock. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she said. "That's why it worked." A sudden rumble shook the ground. Zayla's eyes widened in panic. "They're coming." They felt the bond activate. "Who?" Jack asked again. She stood up quickly. "The ones who made me, the ones buried under this planet, they never died. They ran through the glowing forest as the trees bent and shook. Shadows moved between the branches, tall, silent, watching." Voice echoed in their minds. Cold, mechanical. "Subject Z11 has bonded, retrieve, eliminate contamination," Jack shouted. "They're calling me contamination?" Zayla grabbed his hand. "If they get me, they'll use me to restart their empire. I'd rather die." Jack stopped running. His voice was steady. "No, you're not dying tonight." She looked up at him, her eyes full of fear and hope. Then Jack said something no one had ever said to her before. "You're not a mistake, Zayla. You're a person. You deserve to choose your own future." For the first time in her life, she believed it. Behind them, the ground split open, revealing black machines rising from deep beneath the soil. Jack held her hand tighter, and in that moment, the bond between them burned bright like a small sun, vanished in the night. The machines didn't chase them. They just stood there, tall, dark, and still, watching from the broken ground. Their red lights blinked in the fog like angry eyes. Jack and Zayla hid behind a giant root, holding their breath. Then just as suddenly as they came, the machines vanished into the soil again. But something had changed. The forest was too quiet. Not even the glowing insects buzzed. "They scanned us," Zayla whispered. "They now know everything." Jack looked around, tense. "Why didn't they attack?" "They're not ready yet," she replied, eyes dull. "They want to test us first, study the bond." Jack didn't like that answer. He reached for her hand. "Come on, let's go back to the colony, we'll get help." But Zayla stepped back. "No, I can't go back, not now." "You're not safe out here," Jack shouted. Zayla looked into his eyes, sadness filling her face. "You don't understand. Jack, I felt something when they scanned me. There's a timer now inside me, a countdown." Jack froze. "What do you mean, a countdown?" She placed his hand on her chest where the faint symbol pulsed beneath her skin. "It ends in 3 nights. When it does, I'll become something else." They returned to Jack's quarters inside the colony, sneaking in through the back entrance. Jack sealed the door, activated jamming signals, and dimmed the lights. Zayla sat on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees. He paced the room, frustrated. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why did no one warn me what this ritual meant? Zayla looked. First, they wanted me to stay alone forever. If no one ever chose me, the code inside me would stay asleep forever. It was the only way they could contain the secret? Jack stared at her. But I ruined that by trying to help. No, she said softly. You woke me up. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He watched over her as she slept restlessly. She mumbled in alien language, dreaming of places long forgotten. Suddenly, around midnight, her body started to glow. Bright. Too bright. Alarms in the colony blared. Unauthorized energy spike detected. Jack ran to her side. Her skin was burning hot, her breath fast. Zayla, wake up. Her eyes flew open, but they weren't purple anymore. They were silver, and then she vanished. Right in front of him, just like that. Gone. Guards broke down. Jack's door minutes later. They pointed weapons at him. Where is the hybrid? Jack stood in shock. She just vanished. She was right here, the leader snarled. You've bonded with a forbidden line. That makes you a threat to the galaxy. Jack's fist tightened. You're making a mistake. She's not a weapon. She's a girl. But they didn't care. They tied his hands and dragged him to the command center. Inside the colony's command dome, a tall alien elder approached Jack. His skin was dark green, and his eyes glowed like molten gold. You broke the one law that protects us from extinction, he said coldly. She was alone, Jack replied. You all let her suffer for something she didn't choose. The elder slammed his staff on the floor. That suffering was necessary. She was not supposed to connect with anyone. Now the sleeping core is waking, Jack shouted back. Then help her, don't just hunt her. The elder leaned close. You think she ran away? Fool, she didn't run. She was taken. Deep underground, far beneath the colony, Zayla opened her eyes. She was lying on a stone platform, inside a strange black chamber with no doors. Machines stood all around her, clicking and scanning. The walls glowed with ancient writing. A voice echoed in the chamber. Subject Z11. Bond initiated. Awakening protocols begin now. Zayla tried to move, but invisible force held her down. Jack, she whispered, tears in her eyes. Please, find me. Back at the colony, Jack sat in a holding cell. He stared at the glowing mark on his hand, the same place he had touched Zayla. And then, something strange happened. The mark began to burn and it formed a shape, a map leading deep into the forbidden zone. Jack's eyes widened. I'm coming for you, he whispered. Into the forbidden zone. The map on Jack's hand glowed brighter with each heartbeat. It pulsed like a living thing, showing a winding path through the wilderness, into a place no one had entered in 100 years. The dead zone. The guards had locked him inside a cold steel prison cell. But they didn't know who Jack really was, not just a traitor, not just another human. He was a survivalist, a former search and rescue pilot from Earth's disaster corps. He broke the door lock using a wire from his boot. The sirens didn't even have time to scream. Outside the colony walls, the jungle waited like a beast. Thick, black vines moved slowly under moonlight. Red mist crawled over the ground. The deeper Jack went, the less real the world felt. Sounds faded. Colors shifted. Trees seemed to breathe. But the glowing map on his hand guided him, one step after another, into a forgotten world. Hours passed, Jack's legs ached. His breath turned white from the cold. Then he saw it. A broken tower, taller than anything in the forest, covered in alien symbols, half buried in roots. The map stopped glowing when he reached it. This is the place, Jack whispered. Suddenly, the air around him shimmered. A circular doorway opened in the tower wall, without a sound. Jack walked in. Inside, the walls pulsed with blue veins of light. Machines hung from the ceiling like spiders. Strange alien screens showed shifting symbols. Then, he heard it, a whisper. Jack, Zayla's voice. He followed the sound, deeper and deeper through twisting tunnels and glowing halls. At the heart of the tower, he entered a wide chamber. In the center floated a metal pod, and inside it was Zayla. Eyes closed, skin glowing, softly. Wires attached to her temples and chest. She looked peaceful. But something was wrong. A black mist wrapped around the pod, pulsing with energy. Zayla! Jack rushed forward, but an invisible force pushed him back. The walls lit up. An ancient voice echoed through the chamber. You are the human. The bond trigger. Why have you come? Jack looked around. To save her, the voice replied, calm and cold. You are not authorized to access this subject. She belongs to the Ascended Core. I don't care who you are, Jack growled. Let her go. The voice paused. She has chosen you, that was her mistake. Suddenly, metal arms unfolded from the floor. They shot toward Jack like spears. He jumped, rolled, and pulled a plasma cutter from his belt. Cutting one arm in half, he screamed, I don't care what power you have, I'm taking her back. The pod began to rise. The mist grew thicker. Zayla's eyes snapped open, but they were glowing pure white now. She spoke, but it wasn't her voice. The awakening begins. Core reactivation in 60 seconds. Jack stepped forward, ignoring the pain in his leg from a sharp scratch. Zayla, please. If you're still in there, fight it. Her eyes flickered. For 1 second, just one, her voice returned. Jack, help me. And then she screamed. Jack ran to the nearest control panel. It was covered in symbols, but one button glowed red. He slammed his hand on it. The pod dropped. Sparks flew. The chamber shook. Alarms echoed. Containment breach. Subject released. Zayla fell out of the pod into his arms. She was weak, shaking. Jack held her close. I've got you. You're safe. But her eyes widened in fear. You shouldn't have come. Now they'll follow you too. A deep rumble echoed through the tower. The walls cracked. Something was waking up below. Jack pulled her to her feet. Come on. We're getting out. Of here. They ran through the collapsing tunnels. Lights shattered. Machines screamed. But Jack never let go of her hand. When they burst out of the tower and back into the jungle, the ground behind them exploded upward. A giant hand of black metal reached into the sky. An ancient sentinel had awakened. But Jack didn't stop. He carried her through the forest, through fire, through blood, and back into the wild night. As they reached the river near the colony border, Zayla looked up at him. I felt everything, she whispered. You didn't give up on me, not even when I was gone. Jack smiled, breathless. You're still here. That's what matters. But deep in the forest, the red lights were returning. The machines had her scent, and they wouldn't stop until she was theirs again. The secret of her blood, Zayla's heartbeat, echoed like thunder in her ears. She sat near the river's edge. Her knees pulled to her chest, her silver hair soaked from rain. Jack stood beside her, watching the jungle. He could still feel the ground shaking behind them. Something big had awakened, and it wasn't done hunting. But right now, all he cared about was her. You're shivering, Jack said, wrapping his jacket around her shoulders. Zayla didn't answer. Her hands were glowing. Faint symbols were moving under her skin like ancient writing coming to life. It's changing me, she whispered. Faster now. Jack knelt beside her. Tell me what's happening. I need to understand. Zayla took a shaky breath. You remember the machines, the ones underground? Jack nodded. They were guardians, not of me, but of something inside me. Something old. Something not even I knew about. She looked at him with glowing eyes. My blood isn't normal. It's not just alien. It's engineered. In a hidden lab far away, the colony's scientists were already studying Jack's escape route. They had captured footage from a nearby drone. Jack carrying Zayla through the jungle, her body glowing in the dark like a living star. One scientist gasped. That symbol on her spine, it's the royal crest of the extinct house of Carroll. Another whispered, "But that line was erased from history." The elder commander stepped forward. "No, it was hidden, sealed in a child. And now, she's waking up." Back at the riverbank, Jack helped Zayla to her feet. "We need to move, they'll come soon," he said. Zayla nodded, but her steps were weak. "Jack, if I lose control, you have to promise me something." "What?" "Don't let them take me, even if it means—" "No," Jack said firmly. "You're not dying. You're fighting." Zayla smiled faintly. "You still think I'm just a girl?" Jack looked at her gently. "I don't care if you're a queen, a weapon, or a storm. You're still you. And that's enough." They traveled through old mining tunnels, trying to avoid detection. Jack used heat-suppressing gel and blocked their trail. But something was following them. Something that didn't need scent or sound. It followed her blood. Inside her body, the symbols now pulsed like a second heartbeat. She could feel voices, echoes from the past, pulling her toward a memory she never lived. She collapsed suddenly. Jack caught her before she hit the ground. "Zayla!" She opened her eyes, glowing gold now. Her voice was different, echoing, layered. Primary command sequence unlocked. Genetic bond confirmed. Royal protocol active. Jack stepped back. "Zayla?" She blinked. The glow faded slightly. Her own voice returned. "It's happening again. My body is remembering things I never knew. I saw stars I've never seen, ships, thrones, wars." Then she looked into Jack's eyes. "And I saw you." They found an abandoned outpost by morning. An old stone temple covered in vines. Inside they rested. Zayla sat near a cracked mirror. She stared at her reflection. "The machines. They called me a subject. Not a person," she said quietly. "But when you touched me, Jack, the bond activated. That means something." Jack leaned against the wall. "They designed you to bond with a perfect mate, right?" She nodded. "And they didn't expect that mate to be human." Zayla smiled weakly. "They didn't expect someone with a heart." Suddenly, the door exploded. Metal drones swarmed in, silent, deadly, red-eyed. Jack stood in front of Zayla, his arms spread. "You're not taking her." A voice from one drone echoed across the chamber. "Stand aside. The royal blood must return." Zayla stood, her body trembling but strong. She raised her hand and the drones froze. Their lights flickered. One by one, they powered down and fell to the ground. Jack stared in shock. "How did you?" Zayla whispered. "They obey royal blood." She walked to the largest drone, touched its forehead, and watched it rise again, this time bowing to her. "I'm not your prisoner," she told it. "I'm your queen." The chamber glowed with gold light. The machines hummed in agreement. Zayla turned to Jack. "We have one day left. After that, I either become their queen, or I destroy everything they ever built." Jack took her hand. "Then we'll choose your future together." The blood war begins. The sky above Velmora 9 turned red. Not because of a sunset, but because of warships. Hundreds of them. Black, sharp, and silent, they blocked out the stars. They belonged to the ancient core, the creators of Zayla's bloodline. They had returned, not to talk, not to ask, but to claim. Inside the ancient temple, Zayla stood tall. She was no longer shaking, no longer unsure. Her silver hair flowed like silk in the wind. Her eyes glowed with royal gold. And behind her, the drones she had reprogrammed waited for her command. Jack stood beside her, holding a plasma rifle. But he knew, this fight was not his alone anymore. "You don't have to face them," Jack said. "We can still run." Zayla looked at him. "They'll never stop chasing. Not until I kneel. Or they fall." She stepped outside and faced the sky. Then her voice echoed across the land, through speakers, machines, and the minds of the awakened drones. "This is Zayla, of House Karil. The lost line has returned, and I am not yours anymore." High above, the lead warship responded, A deep voice came through a glowing screen. Your blood is property of the core. You are activation protocol, nothing more. Zayla narrowed her eyes. Then I reject my blood. The ships began to descend. In the colony below, panic spread. The elders ordered everyone to hide underground, but people began whispering, not about the machines, but about Zayla, the orphan girl. She speaks like a queen, and she commands the drones. She's one of them, but she fights for us. Hope flickered in fearful hearts. Jack and Zayla moved toward the center of the forest, to an ancient platform shaped like a star. The ruins were built long ago by the core, built to awaken royalty. Zayla stood at the center. If I activate the platform, I can send a command across the entire network. The old machines will listen. The ships might fall. Jack frowned. But what's the cost? Zayla lowered her head. My body wasn't made to handle full command. If I connect, I might not come back. Jack grabbed her shoulders. Then don't do it. There has to be another way. She looked at him with soft eyes. I was always meant to be alone, Jack. Until you came. Until you chose me. That's why I can't run now. The Core's army landed. Tall biomech soldiers marched forward, scanning everything. The sky turned black. The ground shook. And then, Zayla stepped onto the platform. Her body lifted into the air. The symbols on her skin glowed like fire. The machines, all around the planet, forgotten in deserts, buried in oceans, hidden in moon bases, awakened. Her voice echoed across the stars. I am Zayla Cariel. I claim my right, and I give freedom to all bound by your chains. Machines everywhere turned against the Core's army. The Core's warships began to shake, their AI systems crashing. The blood war had begun, but the power was too much. Zayla screamed. Her skin cracked with light. Jack ran forward, climbing the platform, pulling her down. Zayla, come back. She collapsed into his arms, eyes fading. I did it. I set them free. No, Jack whispered, holding her tightly. You stay with me. Don't fade. Suddenly, a soft hum surrounded them. The platform glowed and began healing her, a final gift of the system she had just freed. Zayla opened her eyes. I'm still here. Jack laughed. Yeah, you are. The army of the Core had fallen. The ships burned in the sky like stars being born, and the people of Velmora 9 stepped out of hiding. For the first time in their lives, they cheered for the orphan no one wanted. What the human found out, the war was over. The Core's black ships had fallen like ash from the sky. The machines were free. The people were safe. But Jack knew the real battle was just beginning. Inside Zayla, they stood on the highest hill of Velmora 9. Below, lights flickered from the colony as survivors celebrated. A massive drone fleet hovered overhead, not as conquerors now, but as protectors. Zayla didn't join the celebration. She stood quietly, watching the stars. Jack walked up beside her. You should be down there. You're the reason they're alive. Zayla gave a small smile. They cheered for me, but they still don't trust me. Jack said gently. They don't need to trust your blood. They just need to trust you. She turned to him. Do you trust me? Jack didn't speak at first. He simply reached out and took her hand. I crossed a galaxy to find you. I broke laws, fought machines, and almost died. Yeah. I trust you. Zayla closed her eyes and leaned her head on his shoulder. Then I can handle whatever comes next, but deep inside, she was changing. The system that had awakened in her, the ancient core, was still active. It whispered to her in her dreams. It offered her power, dominion, a throne among stars. But all she wanted was freedom. Later that night, a group of elders arrived. They bowed to her. Zayla, one elder said, we have seen your strength. We cannot deny your right to lead. Zayla looked surprised. You hated me, called me cursed. The elder nodded. We feared the core, but you broke their chains. You turned their power into something good. He stepped aside. Behind him stood a glowing case. Inside was a crown, smooth, silver, and floating. Zayla stared at it. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. She picked up the crown and turned. She placed it in Jack's hands. Gasps filled the air. "I don't want a throne," she said. "Not alone. If I lead with the one who made me believe I was worth something." Jack blinked. "Me? You didn't just choose me," she said. "You made me choose myself." She turned to the people. "Let him stand with me, not as a ruler, but as proof that hope comes from the most unexpected places." From that day on, Zayla was no longer the orphan. She was Queen Zayla of Velmora 9. But her rule was different from the past. She opened schools. She deactivated weapons. She gave names to the nameless. She made friends of former enemies. And Jack? He stayed by her side, not as a king, but as her anchor. They walked together, fought together, and slowly, they loved together. But one mystery still remained. One night, as Zayla slept peacefully, Jack walked alone to the old platform in the forest. He looked at his hand, the mark from the bond still glowing faintly. Something about it still didn't make sense. He held it over the stone, and the platform lit up again. A hologram appeared, an ancient recording from the core archives. A voice spoke. Genetic pairing confirmed. Subject Jack 27. Human Carol hybrid. Echo blood detected. Jack stared in shock. Hybrid? The screen showed old footage. A human explorer long ago walking among the original core creators, laughing with a woman who looked just like Zayla, his ancestor. Jack wasn't just anyone. He was born to find her. The next morning, Zayla found him sitting on the hill again, quiet. "You look like you saw a ghost," she joked. Jack turned to her with a smile. "Not a ghost. Just a future I didn't know I had." Zayla raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" He nodded. "I am, now." And as the sun rose behind them, warm, golden, and full of promise, Jack took her hand again. Not as a protector, not as a savior, but as an equal.